All right, good morning, everyone, and welcome to the advisory committee meeting for the OLCC delivery of alcoholic beverages direct to consumer. Thank you for taking time out of your schedules today to attend this morning's final rack for delivery. My name is Nicole Blase, and I am the rules coordinator for the OLCC. And we have a few housekeeping notes before we get started this morning. Today's meeting is being recorded. Please ensure that your phone or computer is muted unless you are speaking. Only invited committee members will be a part of today's conversation. Members were selected due to their level of interest or position within the community. With that in mind, we ask that each of you serve as goodwill ambassadors to the discussion so that you may represent your constituency professionally. Please be courteous to other members so that we don't have multiple participants speaking at once. You may use the raise hand function in Teams, or if you are calling in, please interject when appropriate and we will call on you in order. Non-committee members will be able to tender comments during the public hearing and during the public comment period. Committee members, please state your first and last name when you make a comment. All right, today is Thursday, April 11th at approximately 10 a.m. Many of you are familiar with the rulemaking process, but for those of you who have not yet had the opportunity, or for those who are listening in, I will begin by saying a few words and the purpose of advisory committee meetings. The purpose of an advisory committee is to increase the public's involvement in the drafting and development of administrative rules. The Oregon Legislature, through its enactment of the Administrative Procedures Act, ORS Chapter 183, stresses the critical importance of the public's participation in policy development. Advisory committees are an excellent way to solicit input from internal and external stakeholders who are likely to be impacted by the development or amendment of agency policy and rule. Consequently, advisory committee invitees may include licensees, permittees, industry representatives, OLCC staff, members of law enforcement, local government, the public, local community organizations, small businesses, and other interested stakeholders. The purpose of having all of the members on this committee today is to hear from different parts of the industry and public health and safety partners. The Commission strives to hear from all interested parties. Our role today will be to explain the background and context of these rules and the changes that are being proposed in this package. We will provide facilitation to ensure that all committee members can provide input today. Under Oregon's public meeting law, this meeting is open to the public, and members of the public are free to observe our discussion but may not offer comment. The agency will digitally record this advisory committee meeting and will produce and circulate a record of our discussion. However, because this meeting is intended to promote the open exchange of ideas, we will maintain an informal atmosphere, and meeting minutes will record only the topics discussed and the main points made. Within a week after this meeting, we will post and distribute the meeting's audio. We will move on to introductions. I think we have a much smaller crew today, but that's all right. I'll be calling on you to introduce yourself. When introducing yourself, please state your name and the organization you are representing. Again, my name is Nicole Blase. I am the rules coordinator for the OLCC. And I think I'll start here with our OLCC staff. Tyler Glaze, would you like to start?
Thanks, Nicole. Hi, everyone. Thank you all for joining us. My name is Tyler Glaze. I'm an alcohol policy analyst with the Oregon Liquor and Cannabis Commission. And why don't I kick it on over to Arnaud Simon?
Thank you, Tyler and Nicole. My name is Arnaud Simon, and I am the Public Health and Consumer Protection Policy Analyst at OLCC.
Thank you, Arnaud. I think, is there any other OLCC staff on the call? I think maybe Heidi or Randy?
Good morning, everybody. Randy Hancock. I'm the alcohol compliance technician for the state or for the OLCC.
And I'm Heidi Anderson, the liquor licensing manager for OLCC.
Thank you. And I'll transition over to who we have here in person. Andy, would you like to go around the room?
Yeah. Good morning, Andy Jurek, Director of Alcohol Compliance for OLCC. Morning, Brian Haley, Rules and Records Manager.
Morning, Chris Boston, liquor licensing assistant manager for the OLCC.
Everyone, Danica Foster, licensing director for OLCC. Good morning, everyone. Nicole Mitchell, liquor policy analyst currently for the OLCC.
Thank you. And then I'll start with the RAC members who I got an RSVP from. Danelle Romaine.
Good morning, Danelle Romaine, representing the Oregon Beer and Wine Distributors Association.
Thanks. Welcome, Danelle. Allison from Uber. All right. Dan Miner. All right. Those were the only RSVPs I received. Are there any other Rules Advisory Committee members on the call today that would like to introduce themselves?
Hi, this is Anna Powell with DoorDash.
Thanks, Anna. Any other RAC members on the call that would like to introduce themselves? All right, well, feel free to chime in. Otherwise, we are going to go ahead and get started. So I'm going to turn it over to Tyler to get started this morning.
Well, thank you again, everyone, and thank you, Nicole, for putting this all together. Just wanted to start off by, again, thank you all for being here. We really appreciate the feedback. That's one thing about state agencies that we really depend on is the feedback from stakeholders on issues that affect them. Because if we don't hear from you, we don't know what works and what doesn't. And we really appreciate you all joining us today to participate in these important efforts. So just by way of background on these changes, as you may recall from the original RAC, we wanted to kind of assess what was working about the temporary rules that were instituted at the beginning of January and what wasn't working. We got some good feedback as part of that process, and now we have put forward these proposed permanent rules for this upcoming June deadline, and we wanted your feedback on those as well. Just to kind of walk through some 30,000-foot changes from this, they're primarily, clarification of language. There's really not too many major changes that are taking place in these rules. Some things that we just wanted to take stakeholder feedback and clarify in our rules to make sure that this program that we're standing up is effective and does what it needs to do, and make sure that it's keeping people safe throughout the state of Oregon and making sure deliveries are done appropriately under the auspices of HB 3308 that was passed in this previous 2023 session. So just as a first highlight, I wanted to highlight that we clarified some of the criminal background language in this rule. The original language was a little bit unclear as to what we were referring to, and we wanted to clarify specifically what things would be listed under liquor law conviction. So we highlighted those and tried to clarify what laws we're referring to. Secondly, we also wanted to update some of the records and audit timelines and records retention policies too, just to clarify where those stand. First off, the eligible businesses, we changed the language, originally said 3 years to retain records, that has now been adjusted to 2 years. And so eligible businesses that use TPDF should be aware of that change. And if they have feedback for us on those, that would be much appreciated. Also, we changed the actual audit timelines from 30 days to 7 days for TPDFs. We did that in part because that's an auditing purpose is really ultimately what we're trying to do with these rules. We want to be able to inspect the records if there is an incident and be able to ensure that everyone was permitted at the time, everyone had been trained at the time, make sure that we have all of the information available to us as an agency to be able to perform our enforcement duties and our compliance duties. So that was really ultimately where these changes are going. Again, there's a lot of different minor changes in here, just clarification of statutory references, some clarification of numbering to make sure that there's clarity throughout the rule documents and make sure that folks can read them and understand them. And I think as far as background, that's a good rundown of what these rules do. And I would love feedback from any of the stakeholders that are present today on any of these changes or anything you'd like to maybe see in these rules going forward.
Thank you. Excuse me. Thank you, Tyler. Do any RAC members have any feedback on this information? All right. Who's next? in the OLC, Tyler, did you have more to add, or is that should we move on?
I think that's, as far as background goes, that's more to add. If anyone wants to get a little bit more granular on any of the changes or highlight anything they feel is important in these rule changes, I think that'd be helpful.
All right. OLCC staff, shall we continue on?
Yeah, Andy Jurek here, Director of Alcohol Compliance. I will speak on the compliance part just for the record that we will start enforcement later this month. And we'll be following our minor decoy uniform standard that's in statute and in rule. And, you know, the industry's had about 4 months to start getting their internal things worked out. Once we start enforcement, the thing to remember is that we're going to be checking the driver to ensure that they are, you know, delivering a delivery with alcohol. If it contains alcohol, that they are checking the ID. If they look under 26, be sure that they're, you know, delivering that, you know, basically hand to hand to a legally of age person. Also not delivering to people that are visibly intoxicated. And, you know, that's the really big point. And we're going to be checking that through our compliance program. So just to be, I guess, fairly warned that we're going to start the compliance throughout the state later this month.
All right. Thank you, Andy. Anybody else from the OLCC who would like to, any other topics for discussion?
Hi, everyone. Chris Watson, Liquor Licensing Manager for the OLCC. There's a topic of, I wanted to talk about service permits. Not because we're actually a change in these permanent rules as compared to the temporary rules, but just to clarify that that we had made a change since the RAC back in November, when we allowed service permits on the rules that we were proposing at that RAC, but were not put into the temporary rules, was an allowance for service permits to meet the training requirement for drivers or TPDF. And we're not in the temporary rules, and they're still not in the permanent rules that we're proposing today. And we just wanted to make sure that they are still allowed for FCOM and other annual licensees conducting their own deliveries and not using a TPDF service. We just wanted to make sure there was a bit of clarity and that there was no confusion from that, not the temporary rules, but from that November RAC where we had discussed that as being an option to help establish the program.
Thanks, Chris. Tyler, I see you have your hand up.
I'm happy to wait and see if any of the stakeholders have any questions on what Chris just said.
All right. Any feedback thus far for what has been discussed from any of our RAC members who have joined us today? All right. OLCC staff, anything further?
Hi, Nicole. Yes, I would want to note one more thing too. One of the big changes too with this is folks might know that we just passed House Bill 4138 in this session, which authorizes the OLCC to create a permit fee for the third-party delivery facilitator permit, and that is going to be instituted in these rules as well. That's a part that was contemplated in the original bill language of House Bill 3308. We got some feedback from from DAS and DOJ that we needed explicit authority in statute that wasn't part of 3308. So that was what HB 4138 was about. And now that is part of the rules. So future applicants, that will be going forward a $500 permit fee. Just wanted folks to be aware.
All right. Thank you, Tyler. Any other OLCC folks that have any other topics that they would like our RAC members to be made aware of today? All right, this looks like it might be a really short meeting. Is there any RAC members? Anything else that you would like to contribute today? Please raise your hand. Otherwise, I can, as the rules coordinator, I can just give you sort of a rundown, tentative rundown of what some key dates that we have coming up for this rule package. We will be posting our notice of proposed rulemaking in the May 1st bulletin. So that will be available May 1st on the Secretary of State's website. During the month of May, we are aiming to have our public hearing and our public comment period. The public comment period will last through the end of the month. So if there is any feedback that you have or something that you would like inserted into the final rulemaking record, that will be your time to do so. And because our temporary rules for delivery will be expiring at the end of June, that will also be, that is our planned timeline to have these rules go permanent. So it is our plan right now to take this to the June commission meeting for approval for permanent rules. So we encourage all of our RAC members to provide feedback. We love to have the feedback and can incorporate it into the rulemaking record. So that is sort of tentatively what we have coming down the pipeline. Does anybody from OLCC have any last words? Anything else to add? Oh, and yes, thank you, Bryant. The fiscal impact statement that you all have received previously in the meeting materials, feel free to send that in to us anytime as well. And for the public, our public health partners, same. If you've received the public health questionnaire and would like to submit that to us, we will accept those over the coming weeks and incorporate those into the final rulemaking package as well. Anything else? I think that's, I'm not hearing anybody, so we will conclude if nobody else has any feedback. Well, thank you everyone for joining us today. And as always, feel free to contact any of the OLCC staff if you have any questions or would like to submit additional feedback. And all right, well, thank you everyone so much for joining us. Have a wonderful rest of your day.
Thank you, everyone.
Bye-bye.
Thank you.